Welcome to the 22nd episode of Profs Radio. I'm your host, Peter Martin, founder of Enterprise Profs, the Hughes Group to grow your business. Today we have Victoria Fleming from Buzztastic. Good morning, Victoria. Do you want to say hi to the listeners and tell them about what you do?
Hi, it's really nice to be here, and hello everyone who's listening. My name is Victoria, so thank you so much for introducing me so well. And I love sales. That's really what I do. I help people to sell more, and I help them to feel more confident, more excited, and more enthusiastic about selling. Because I don't know about you, but a lot of people don't really like the S word. They don't like sales at all.
I know it's crazy that you started that off with "I love sales." Like I couldn't think of anything worse than trying to sell to anybody or be sold to. Like when people stop me and say, "How are you?" I just go straight to the point. Just tell me what you're selling. Give me the pitch, and I'll just say yes or no at the end. Like don't bother with the pit matter. But
It's so true. People don't want to be sold to. They just want
no,
to.
no.
You like buying stuff, don't you? You like buying stuff. You just don't like being sold to.
I like buying stuff online. I don't like going to shops. Most of it. It's just a bit. But oh no, shopping. But like being sold too, like you always get like some. I think you've described this the horrible feeling in your stomach. Like it's probably one of the most sickest feelings you ever get when you're trying to sell. But,
I think that people do. I think people feel so awkward about selling. I think
yeah,
especially in a smaller business when you're trying to sell your business, and even more so when the business is you and what you do, because
yeah.
then it feels like if I ask someone to buy what I do and they say no, they've like personally rejected me. I think it becomes very personal. I think it's actually easier to sell in bigger organizations where you're like, you're just selling a widget, or you're selling a pen, or you're selling a thing. Because actually if someone says no to it, it's like, okay, well, never mind, maybe the next person will want it. But I think especially when you're in smaller business, I mean, you care, don't you?
Yeah. You do, but like you said, it is quite personal because we all know that business is all about relationship building. So if they don't want you, and then particularly if they go off somewhere else and pick somebody else, you kind of go, "What was the difference?" Like I tried my best for you.
Yeah, you do. And I think it's really easy to take that really personally. And I think we all have that. I think everybody who I ever speak to has had that. I think some of the thing for me is about trying to separate what you're selling from yourself, though, because just because they don't want the service that you're offering doesn't mean that they don't like you, or you're a bad person, or they're not still your friend. But I think it's really difficult for us sometimes to differentiate those two things. And actually, to start to think, I always think that quite often in sales, they say, every no is just a step on the way to your next yes. And in real life, actually, I would rather someone said no to me than made me run around after them for the next 3 months, like not answering my calls, or going, I'll come back. Yes, we'll definitely need to. I'll come back to you on that. If you don't want it, just say no, because actually the good thing is we can then both get on with our lives, can't we? But yeah, it sometimes can feel a bit like if they actually say no, they feel like they're going to upset us, and we feel like we are going to be upset. But really, it's not helpful for either side, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think there's something in our culture as well as selling. We don't like letting people down, so to say no to somebody is really awkward, and we tend to just like string them along. But it is much better, I think, to just be brutally honest and go, "Thanks very much, but no thanks." Much
Yeah.
easier.
And actually, I mean, in your business, you'd rather someone said no and just told you why, because then you can do something about it for next time, than
Yeah.
just kept you going, just wasting your time, basically. And actually, I think, for me, quite often with some of the clients I'm working with, I was talking to one of the a financial advisor actually yesterday, who is been doing a lot of calls at the moment, and I was like, right, your mission here is to get them to say no. And he's like, but I don't want them to say no. I want them to say yes. I'm like, I know you want them to say yes. The thing is, though, do not come off that phone until you've got an answer. So if it's not a yes, you want
It's
them to
enough.
say no, because actually then you can put it to bed and move on. And I think that that's really interesting, because quite often if we get a maybe, we're really keen just to like keep things like, oh, okay, well, we'll maybe talk again in a week, or maybe do this, that, and the other. But actually a successful outcome is getting an answer. So even if that answer is no, then you can get on with your life, and like they can get on with their life. And if you bump into them at networking, it's like not super awkward. You're not having to like hide or have that really awkward
Yeah.
conversation where like you're like in a group situation and you want to say, so yeah, are you buying my stuff or what? I mean, you can't say it.
Tell me.
So
Yeah.
instead, yeah, exactly. So instead, you're like, oh, is everything all right? Yeah, everything's all right. And they're awkward, and you're awkward, and it's just like horrible. So, one of the things I think you can do to help yourself with sales is it's almost like just rip off the plaster, make your offer, and say, like, do you want it? Yes or no? And seeing either of those responses as a good response and something you can work with, rather than just letting it drag out, and so that every time you see them it's like, oh, you know what I mean?
I like how you use the no's as a countdown to the yeses. So you just get excited about the no's because you know your conversion rate and it's all that. So when you know that, like I have to speak to 100 people and out of 100 people, this is how many usually convert. You know that as soon as you get those no's, you're closer to your yes. I quite like that mindset that you have.
It's really, you know what, it really helps as well, because I think sometimes you can think, I think especially if maybe you're doing more volume, so especially if you're on the phone and you're going to make maybe 20 calls across the day, if the first 3 calls are all no, then you get the point where, oh, I don't want to pick up the phone again, I'm having a bad day. Actually, if you know that you get a yes 1 out of every 7 calls, then you're like, oh, that's fine, I just need to make another 4 calls and one of them's going to say yes. Like, come on, here we go. So it can be
Motivation.
really helpful. Yeah, it keeps your motivation up.
Do you want to tell us a little about your journey and like how you got to where you are today, being excited about sales?
You know what? It's really funny. Everyone always says, like, what about your journey? I always feel like I should have, a really exciting backstory. And I don't really. I mean, I finished uni. My degree's in ancient history and archaeology. I wanted to be Indiana Jones. When I grew up, I didn't want to be in sales when I grew up. I wanted to be indie. When I finished uni, I ended up working for one of the big local companies, which is Sage. They're a big technology company. And I started in tech support. And actually, I did 3.5 years in tech support. I also did training qualifications, a bit of time in sales during that time. But I credit that was when I became a salesperson. Really, I didn't know I had at the time, because really, I think salespeople are just problem solvers. You have a problem, I can solve it. Hooray! And actually, really, the best salespeople, that's what they're doing. They're solving a problem for someone. So a lot of that came from that. And I spent altogether, I was with Sage for 10 years. And that was a great stomping ground, because equally I did a lot of work with small businesses. And I always used to think, oh my God, they're so brave. They're so brave. They set up on their own. They've done this. I could never do that. I always had that little thing. Oh, they're so brave. And then in the beginning of the recession, I went to work in the construction industry, as you do, still selling software, but all of a sudden selling software into a market that kind of wasn't there anymore. So I set up and ran a sales team, and we introduced a number of new innovations to keep us going through the recession. And then about 6 years ago now, I sort of just said, right, you know what? I want to be one of those brave people, and I set up on my own. And I've been doing that ever since. I've been really lucky, and since I've set up, I've got to do some really interesting corporate stuff with retail, sort of like clothes shops, with banking, with telecoms companies, with all sorts of different sort of really big corporates, but then also with small and micro businesses. And actually, that's where I get the most excited, because if you make big corporate an extra £2 million, they're like, great, brilliant, it's another £2 million. If you can help a small business make an extra £1,000 a month, that's huge, because that's actually really life changing for them and their business. And I've been really fortunate to be able to do both of those things at the same time. So I'm super lucky. And after 6 years, I still love what I do, and I still love to sell. So that's also really lucky, because I think especially when you run your own business, it's really easy to fall out of love with some of the stuff you do. But I really love what I do, and I think that comes across, and it helps people feel that, well, you know what, if she can sell, then I can as well. And I really like being able to empower people like that.
So we're talking about sales a lot, but generally people in business talk more about marketing, which is kind of a little bit softer. What would you say the differences are between sort of sales and marketing?
Oh, right. Okay. So, and quite often, just to be clear, people will ask me what I do, and I go, I'm sales. And they go, oh, sales and marketing. And I go, no, sales. And the key difference to me is marketing is reactive. So you send a load of emails, and then you sit there and you cross your fingers and you go like this, fingers crossed the phone will ring, someone will email me, a check will come in the post. So it's very much like you chuck it all out there and you just cross your fingers. That's literally, it's just hoping and wishing. Whereas I see that sales is proactive, because sales is actually going and doing something about it. It's going and picking up the phone and ringing someone and saying, look, I've got this great opportunity, do you want to be part of it? It's about going to a networking meeting and say, you know what, I've got this fantastic solution, I think it'd be great if you let's have a coffee about it. It's about making something happen. And I think, to me, that's the big difference. Now, increasingly, and I don't know what your views on this are, but I think increasingly marketing is becoming more proactive. Things like chatbots and some of the digital innovations. And equally, I think that sales is leading a little bit more in towards the marketing. So I do think they're becoming a little bit more overlapped in the digital world. But that's what I really see the difference is. And I think that if you want to be successful in your business, it's really easy to send an email and then just sit there and hope, because that's really safe. But actually, to me, that's not going to drive your business forward. And, sitting and hoping isn't going to pay your mortgage. So that's why I get really excited about enabling and empowering people to go out and sell. Because if you get excited about selling, then you can make that happen whenever you want,
That's true, yeah. But it's like, if you're not excited about your product, if you come across and your sales is all down and things, nobody wants to buy your product, do they? No matter how good it is. So I think you have to be excited about the sales element, because that excitement will transfer as in people see you excited about your products as well, I think.
And quite often that's why you set up a business. You set up a business because you wanted to do this and offer this amazing thing to people. It might be a website, a website that's going to change their business. It might be that you wanted to offer some HR advice. It's going to change the way they work with their employees and make sure their business has better internal relationships. It could be any of these things, but at the end of the day, you set up your business because you're excited about what you do. So really, if you're not going out there and sharing that excitement with people by selling it, then you're kind of doing yourself and them a disservice. You want people to see what a great solution it is that you can give them, so that you can change their business and their lives with what you're amazing at.
I always wondered how you've managed to keep those excitement levels up, to be honest. Known you for a while now, and I don't think I've ever seen you without a smile on your face. But
I honestly believe that, you've got to be excited about life, because what else is there? Every day is like just a new adventure. And you've got to remember, I am the woman who wanted to be Indiana. So every day I think, come on, what mission am I going on? What quest am I going on? What artifact am I going to find today? So yeah, it's something for me is a bit of a mindset thing around that. I do sort of think in terms of like, what adventure are we going to have next? And I think that really helps you be excited about life, the way that the prism that you look at it through.
Now the Indiana Jones of sales. There we go. So you've been in business, you said, for about 6 years now. So you've probably come across a few challenges in that time. Is there any you want to talk about?
Oh,
Is there any you want to talk about?
Oh God, where do you want to start?
Yeah.
I think we all have loads of different challenges. I think that some of the stuff that I've found challenging along the way has been when I've had to make a big change. So, for example, I got to a point about 18 months ago where I realised that I couldn't keep doing what I was doing because I just ran out of time. I'd run out of resource. I'd run out of energy. So I had to outsource. But at that point, it was like I hit like this big brick wall about I need to do something different, but I don't know what it is. There's been stuff around, I think, getting out there and really identifying what it is you're amazing at as well, because I've always been involved in sales, but actually getting really clear on the people that I can really help, that's been a challenge as well. So I think that there's so many of these things that we come up every day. The big learning that I've had with all of this, though, has been that whatever challenge you come up against and whatever issue you have, there's always people out there to help you. The trick is to ask. And I think the biggest challenge for me is sometimes being to say to other people, I'm really struggling with this. How can I do things differently? What would you suggest? And I actually benefit from other people's experience. And a lot of the solutions that I came up with along the way were all based on other people saying to me, well, why don't you try this or have a go at that, rather than just keep banging your head against the same brick wall, you know?
But so I mean, we know, because you put things on Facebook or on LinkedIn saying, I've got this problem, and then suddenly you get all these people trying to sell to you. How would you go about trying to decide who do I listen to, who should I trust here?
I'll be really honest. I don't know about you, but like I've got like a group of well, you're one of my business buddies, aren't you? If I
I
had a
think
if
so.
I had a problem and I thought, you know what, based on his experience, Peter's the right person here, I would pick up the phone, and say, Peter, can you help me with this? So I think that the business relationships we make, and the trust that we build, even if we don't currently need the solution that someone's offering, or even if we don't even need their business service, we just need their business insight. I think that's super important. I think especially for smaller businesses, when you're on your own. So I'm on my own with a virtual team that I use. It's great to be able to speak to other people around that.
How do you find that, managing sort of a virtual team rather than a sort of a physical team in a location?
And I've got to be honest, Zoom is a godsend. I
Everybody's
know
saying that lately.
everyone's, I mean, at this moment in time, but interestingly, even before all of the current situation, like
Yeah.
Zoom's great. And I've got to be really honest, there's loads of proper like project management and team management software out there. I've got to be frank, we've got a Facebook group. So
Why
we
not?
have there's a Facebook group called Teamtastic, which is all where all the internal team, if they've got a problem or a query or something like that, they actually post it on the Facebook group, and normally someone else comes back and says, oh, this stuff's over there, or it's in the Dropbox. And I know there's loads of official software you can use, but actually it works, and it's quite nice because it's a little bit more informal, which for me, all of my team are professionals at what they do, so they don't need they're all independent, they're all self-starting, they all know what they need to be doing, they don't need like loads of guidance and support from me or from anyone else. So it's just a really informal way of just quickly saying, oh, what about this, oh, I've got this, or here's this if anyone needs it. So yeah, who thought Facebook
No,
is a
well,
team
yeah,
management
I think
tool?
that's quite a key point. Picking up what works rather than going, what should I be using? Just because
Yeah.
lots of companies use Slack and that's what I should be using to manage my business. Why? If it makes your life more complicated, why? Keep it simple. And if software isn't helping you do that, then it's the wrong software for you, no matter
And I mean, ironically, I
how.
mean, there's some software that I absolutely adore, but I think it does just show that, and sometimes it's where people are. I mean, the bottom line is like all my team is around on Facebook. So, I'm in and out of Facebook a couple of times a day by default anyway. And I've used Slack before, and I've got to be honest, I hated it. I think it's a
I'm
Marmite
not a
thing. I
big
think
fan of
people
it,
either
to
love
be
it.
honest.
Yeah, I think people either love it or hate it, but couldn't get away with it. So, and as saying, all my team are in and out on Facebook anyway, so it's convenient,
Why not? Uh, so that's how the challenge solves you. So what would be your top tip for entrepreneurs if you want to sell more?
I think definitely you need to get your systems in place. I think there's three key things. I think sales is about three things, and they're three really easy things. That's what's really good. And you know me, Peter, I like to keep it simple. It's about three things. It's about people, and the people bit is just about being able to have a conversation. I mean, like, look, we're both doing it now. Like, we can all have a conversation. So tick, like everyone can do that. The second thing is about having a process, and I think that this is where quite often people have a bit more of a challenge, but it's about knowing, from the first time you meet someone, either online or face to face, whatever it might be, what is the process to get them to the point of buying something. And then really, I always say it's like the passion, it's like that enthusiasm to talk about your product or service, and so on and so forth. And interestingly, I think for me, that process, it doesn't have to be really complicated, but this is where I think, what we were saying earlier on about that blur that's now happening between marketing and sales. And I think it's that whole thing, because quite often the beginning bit of that process will quite often be linked into your marketing, so on and so forth. I mean, I'm a big fan of Convertkit. I don't know if you've come across that before.
I've heard of Convertkit, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Right, I moved to use Convertkit about a year ago now, and it was like a brand new world. Like, it's amazing. But what that means is that when I get to know people, either online or face to face, one of the first things I'll normally point them to is a resource that I can offer them. I'll give them something. It's a really nice way of validating my expert status, and it's also really nice for them to see what I do. But then by doing that, I just need to point them to somewhere, and I've got it's all automated stuff that goes off with like lead stuff and these little challenge things, and then they can have this and they can have the other. But all the time that's being managed on an automatic basis. What they're actually doing is they're coming into my funnel ready for me to start on that sort of like more sales approach kind of thing. So definitely I think that process is the thing that most people are missing. What I tend to find is loads of people have got two things. They've got lead magnets here and they've got something they're selling here, and if you say to them, brilliant, so how are you going to get them from the lead magnet to the thing you're selling? And that's the moment where people kind of go, well, I don't know. Okay, well, if you haven't got anything between those two things, you're in trouble, because there's literally no point in you having a lead magnet if it's not going to lead you to one of your sales products. And I think that's a bit that quite often I end up working with people on. And quite often, I'm saying to people, okay, well, if they've consumed some of your content, they've had a lovely lead magnet, they've got to know you a little bit, why not pick up the phone and say hello to them? Why not pick up the phone and say, or you drop an email and say, look, I noticed that you'd recently had XYZ. I'd love to hear how that went for you. Institute a conversation, because once a sales is just a conversation, but you need to move from sending people almost generic stuff to a personal conversation, because to me, that's when you can start to move towards actually making an offer and getting someone to buy something for you. So yeah, that was a bit of a long answer, wasn't it?
No, that's fine. You've actually also answered the second one as well. I think. But I think you've picked up a point, another difference there between kind of the sales and marketing. It sounds like marketing's here trying to exposure for your business. You're on social media, you're giving out lead magnets and emails and all the rest of it. But then sales becomes the relationship part of that funnel, where actually you now need to speak to somebody, and actually you've built up that trust online, that you've built up that following line, but now go out and interact with them and actually build a face-to-face relationship, really, or at least a phone call.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I completely. And I mean, it doesn't have to be a phone call. I mean, it could be a DM on Facebook if that's your thing, or it could be, a message on LinkedIn. Although, my goodness, LinkedIn messaging at the moment is that is like the most salesy place in the world right now, and not in a good way.
It's not even sales, is it? Really, it's more like, buy my stuff. Like,
it is literally.
Like,
and you're just like, what is going on here? I don't even know who you are. And like, you're trying to connect with me. And your opening thing is like, we should connect because we're in the same, what is it? I've been on your profile and it looks like you're doing some great work with X. So I would love to be connected. So at the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, we'll do that. That'll be good. And then the next thing is, great, now we're connected. We should really have a conversation about this thing that I do and that you would like to buy. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are, really. I thought you wanted to get to know each other. I thought there was some mutual symbiosis. No, there's not. You just connect with me to sell stuff at me. So yeah, sorry, mini rant about LinkedIn at the moment.
No, it's one of the Bible bearers as well. But it's going back to what you said right at the beginning. How's that doing problem solving? That's all about you rather than them. And you said, I think sales are problem solvers. So if you're not solving a problem, you're probably not selling, really.
Absolutely. Quite often it's what you were saying before as well about, how are you going to find out about someone's problem? Because I'm not going to tell you I've got a problem unless I already kind of know you and trust you. Maybe want to share that with you. So yeah, I think there's a huge thing about that. It's not, I think it's not ideal, shall we say. And it's such a shame. It really is such a shame, because I used to really like LinkedIn, but I am a little bit going off it at the moment just for that one reason. But there we go.
I think people are starting to wise up that maybe it doesn't work as much now, but we've still got quite a lot of novices doing it. A great opportunity for you. Hey, your sales technique. It's not really working for you, is it? Try something different. How do they know you're even their target audience?
Well, this is the whole thing. I mean, people are just doing generic searches and they're just targeting anyone, and it just makes me feel a bit sick, if I'm honest with you, because it's the worst kind of sales, that like completely cold approach, and it's very much straight in at the kill. Like, do you want to buy my stuff? And you're just like, well, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you do. You don't know anything about me. Like, why would I want to do that? So yeah, it's a bit sad, because actually this is the kind of stuff that then makes people feel really icky themselves when they come to sell. Whereas actually, you're never going to sell like that. I'm never going to sell like that. So why do I need to feel icky about it? That's them. It's not me. But it is that whole thing. It's like the double glazing salesperson or the used car.
Oh,
They've got some really bad reputations, but we've all been in that seat in the showroom, being pressured into trying to get them to spend more money than we wanted to on something that we don't necessarily need on a car. So I think we've all been in that seat, and because we've been in that seat on like the receiving end, like we've got this like internal aversion to, well, if I sell, I'm going to be like that person. You know what? You're not. The very fact that you're saying I don't want to be like that means that you're not going to be like that. But yeah, so LinkedIn is turning into that kind of a place, I think.
the thing is, I think with sales, a lot of targets and commission has probably tarnished the industry, because that's what, obviously, if you've got to put bread on the table for your family and you pay on commission, or you've got to reach a certain level of targets in order to maintain your job, then that you stop thinking about the customer, because it suddenly comes down to, I have to do this, and then that's where the pressure comes in. Then you just start alienating people. So, I mean, what's your view on kind of setting sales targets and things like that, if
Um,
that's the effect that it's having?
I think this is all about ethical selling, and I also think it's about actually what works.
Yeah.
But I've got to be really honest. At one point in time, you could sit there in a call center and churn out 120 calls, and you'd hit your target and just sell whatever to whoever. Like, life's not like that anymore, because you won't even take that phone call. Never mind buy something over the phone anymore. So I think the landscape has changed. So I believe that everybody should have a sales target, even like business owners. I think quite often as small businesses, I talk to people and I'll say, so what's your target? And they'll say, oh, to do more than I did last month. And I'm like, great. Well,
How much
that's
more?
brilliant. Yeah. How much more? What does that look like? And I think that quite often people are scared to come up with a number, but in doing so, they make a real challenge for themselves, because it means they don't push themselves. If you know that you need to do, oh, I don't know, let's keep the numbers really easy, okay? Let's say over a year you wanted to turn over £120,000. That means your target per month needs to be £10,000. I said I needed easy maths, didn't I? That means your target for a month needs to be £10,000, which means that pretty much your target for a week needs to be £2,500. So now you know that actually per day you need to sell £500. Now, if all of your products are £4.50,
That's a
you can
lot of sales.
see, yeah, that's never going to work. That's like a real, like, you're doing real volume sales there. You've got to have a plan about that. Whereas if your product value is £9,000, you think, well, really, I only need to do one and a bit per month and I'm sorted. But this is the kind of clarity that people don't have. So they have something that they want to achieve over the space of a year, but because they never work it back, they never work out what that looks like, it's really hard for them to be successful there. Because if, just pretend you had a £500 product, therefore you need to sell 5 a week, and you knew that to make one sale you had to make 40 phone calls, then you can start to do the metrics. It says, well, actually, if I do 40 phone calls a day, I'm going to sell one thing a day, which is £500, which means over a week I'll do £2,500, which means, so you can see how you can work that all out and come up with your own sales recipe. So many people don't do that. And instead, they're just like, how much would you like to sell? Well, as much as I can. Well, that's great, but it doesn't focus you. If
Yeah.
you're focused on, in order to hit my target this month, I need to sell one more of this product, that really focuses you onto, so who have I spoken to about this product already? Who do I need to go back and catch back up with? Who else would this be a great fit for? Who else do I need to start a marketing campaign to get them into my ecosystem? But I think it starts to focus your thinking. Now, I know exactly what you're saying, though, about this whole thing about really what it is mis-selling. And I think in bigger businesses, there's definitely previously been some issues around that, where it is like, just sell anything to anyone, it doesn't really matter. I think the good thing is that increasingly in larger businesses, they are going down like this ethical consultative sales route. And to be honest with you, Peter, there's two reasons for that. One is that what they've realized is you can sell to someone once, but if you do it like that, you'll never sell to them again. And actually, most of the time, the money is in that, the additional sell, you know, the lifetime value of a customer. But the second thing about it is that actually it's so much harder to sell like that. So even if you're sat on the phone now, what you're really trying to do is find the people whose problem you can solve, because I know, and they know, and the person on the other end of the phone knows that if you're not solving a problem, you're going to have a really hard job selling it. So it's, some of it's about, out of sheer laziness and making your life easy, you want to find the people with those problems. So I do think that we've had in certain industries some real precious sales around that. And I still think even quite recently, like PPI, for example, very blanket, very, you know, thing of, you know, sort of, you know, blanket approach, very scripted, very do 3,000 calls, get 2 sales out of it, your target's done. But I don't think that that's the norm anymore. And that's a good thing, because I think sales needs to, you know, have a better reputation than that. You know what I'm going to ask now, though, don't you?
Go on.
You got a sales target?
You know me. I like to play around with things on my computer, and I don't like the sales side of things. I'm really,
you know what?
really bad at sales.
Get a little Excel sheet out, and I promise you, it's like in my office, right? The way that I do this, obviously, is we were talking about earlier. I'm working from home at the moment, the current situation. But in my office, I have a big whiteboard, and on my big whiteboard, I have like the 12 months.
Oh, I've seen it.
My target for each month, and then I have my forecast with stuff, so I know exactly where I am. And I honestly, the almost not just the focus, but the peace of mind that can give you is so nice to have. So I know it's a scary thing to do, but totally give it a go. That's my challenge to you.
There's one thing you said though, because you can have these targets and things like that. So yeah, I want to make taking the example you said, £120,000 a year. So therefore, I need to do one sale a day at 500. But earlier on in the conversation, you were talking about when you reach your capacity. So I think people, you know, it's nice to have those targets and that'll do it. But actually, how many hours are you going to be working a day? Like, if you've got to get one sale a day and it's going to take you 40 phone calls, is that going to take you longer than a normal working day? And actually, is that worth it?
What's that look like?
Because people don't join a business, and a lot of them, they go, oh, that's it, and I'm going to make loads and loads of money, and they never think about actually capacity
the work
and how
behind
to scale
it.
up.
And you know what? And that is such a great point, because that's exactly why you should do this. Because if you, obviously, I've just been talking to my video editor earlier on today, and he's hitting capacity. And we've just been having a conversation about what that might mean for him. And essentially where he is now, he's in a great position where he's now thinking about, I'm going to outsource some of it, but also I'm going to put some of my prices up. So I don't need to sell as many things to make the same money. And equally, if I put the price up a bit, I can afford to outsource some of that work. I think the thing is that sometimes we don't actually get to the point of thinking about that. So we don't think, in order to make my financial target for the year, the money that I would like to make, I'm going to have to sell 20,000 widgets. We never have that like complete recognition. So this is one of the reasons it's a good idea to track back on targets, because if all of a sudden you find, right, well, for me to sell one of this thing, I need to make 40 phone calls. And actually, I haven't got the time to do that 5 days a week. So therefore, I can't hit my targets. That says something about what you need to be thinking about. And what you need to be thinking about is either, how can I do it in 20 calls a day? Or is this the right price point for this product? Should I be selling a higher value product? Should I be doing X, Y, Z? But I think they're upfront decisions you can make, rather than, I think what often quite happens is people get to capacity and they're still not making the money that they want. And the reason for that is they've never actually worked it backwards to say, well, if I want to make this amount of money, this is, you know, what that needs to look like. And there's a huge, so, you know, quite often I'll be able to say, right, so I need to sell one more day's training this month, and I'm like, done. Whereas if I didn't have a target, I'd be like, right, well, I need to sell some more stuff. It makes it so much more vague, but also it means that my value on a day's training or whatever else I'm selling is entirely in line with that end goal that I've got. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I mean, one of the things that I do when I look at targets is actually I kind of go, this is the minimum that I need, you know, to pay overheads, make a living, etc. This is my capacity, and I probably should aim somewhere around here. So I tend to do, I've got this one spreadsheet and I tend to do 3 of them based on that. I don't know, is that something you do similar, or do you kind of just go sales, maximum sales?
I personally work all my targets on where I want to end my year on. So I on a turnover basis, and some people do their targets based on profit or whatever. I mean, there's loads of different ways to targeting, and some people do it based on units. For me personally, I have a financial target on my turnover for the year, and then I work it back. Now I know what my costs are, a bit like you. I know exactly per month what pays the bills, if that makes sense. But I also know the difference between that and what I actually want to achieve. So my target is what I want to achieve. And the reason for that is that's where you want to end up. That's a, you know, I think we work really hard running our own businesses.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's great if you're paying the bills, but really, you know, you want to be in a position where you're making the money that you want to make, and equally being able to lead the life that you want in line with that. And I think that it really helps with things like your pricing and your products if you're constantly aiming at what you want to achieve rather than that, like, sort of like, you know, pay the bills kind of figure.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a middle ground between burning yourself out and just getting by, and definitely.
Yeah, completely.
You talked about Facebook and Convertkit. Do you have a other piece of software that's your favourite, and why?
And you know what? I realised, like, when we were talking about this interview, I realised that, because at the beginning I was like, I don't really use lots of software. Well, apart from that. Oh, well, and that. Oh, and I mean, I couldn't be without that. Oh, and of course,
Well, you
this
know,
one.
half your
Well, I mean,
income's
that's
on
really
software.
important. Oh my goodness. So I worked out there's 2 other bits of software that, like, you'd probably have to, you know, chop my arm off before I'd let you get rid of. And one of them is Book Like a Boss. Now, I love this. It's an online booking system. And I mean, there's loads of them out there. There's like Acuity and Calendly and stuff like that. I love Book Like a Boss just because I love the name. Because, like, you know, like a boss. But what I think is brilliant about this is I think a lot of businesses, especially service businesses, might not think that they've got a need for it. I love it because, you know, that thing when someone says like, oh, we should totally have a coffee about that. Oh, we should totally have a catch up. We should totally do this, that, and the other. Now, the 2 things about that is that one is it's a pain trying to organize your diaries. So it's really easy if you can literally just send them a link and just say, yeah, just there's access to my diary, just book it in kind of thing. That makes life really easy. And also it takes the onus off you. So it means that, you know, when they're ready, they can come and book that in. The second thing about it is that you can time bind that. So whenever I do that, they're 15-minute sessions, like little 15-minute time slots. And that's really helpful as well, because I think so often, you know, we end up drinking a lot of coffee, giving a lot of free advice. You know, we're all busy. We have targets to hit. Come on, chop, you know? So I think that I found that's really helpful in a way of time binding, you know, that time doing that stuff. And that's not because I don't want to spend time talking to people or anything like that. It's because in reality, as you know, you've got other stuff to do with your day. There's only so much of your time you can dedicate to catching up and talking to people. And what I've found is, since moving to that for like coffee, is that people tend to be more respectful of that time because they can see it's a 15-minute slot, so it's really helpful. So I love that system, and actually I do chargeable sessions through there as well, so you can sell through that as well, which is really helpful because it means that if people want to spend an hour picking my brains, they can actually buy a session off there. And again, it's really hands off for me, which is fantastic for that kind of product, I think. So,
and I guess
I
you can also set the address as well, can't you? So rather than people trying to get you to go out to them for free, when you send that, they get the confirmation, well done, you're booked in, here's where we're meeting, and then it's on your terms, which would hopefully save you some time as well.
And with me, it hooks straight into Zoom and it sets up the meeting on Zoom. It's like done in a warner, which is great because it just means I don't need to do anything. All that happens is that drops into my calendar, which is so nice, and it just saves so much time. Even like, I know people use like Doodly. Is it Doodle? No, Doodle. That's what it is, isn't it?
Doodle's good for if you're trying to get lots of people together.
Scheduling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've used that before as well, but I just really like this because generally it's like one-to-one, and it just means it's not my problem anymore. Not my problem. So that's one.
Like
And
an
the other
online
one
PA for you.
yeah, it's a bit like that. And so there's that one. And the other bit of software that I really love is it's a presentation software which is called Beautiful AI. I started using this about like 6 months ago now, and it's because I'm not the most creative person, shall we say. So my slides and stuff are really important because it's my professional image, but actually they're not the things that I find the easiest to do. So I started using Beautiful AI, and I love it because it puts together beautiful presentations, like really simply. There's a player, so you can use it all offline as well. But the other thing that I really like about it is you can even embed it on like your websites and stuff. So I've now used that to do like lead magnets and things like that, where actually people go to the website and there's a player, and in the player there's a mixture of presentation slides and video, and it just looks really super cool. So I think that would be the other one that I pay for that every month. And yeah, that and Convertkit, those monthlies, I just, I would not go to the pub for a night to make sure I could pay for those instead, really.
Wow. They're even better than a pint or a glass of wine, maybe in your case.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so I'm not sure there's other stuff that I use. I mean, I'm a big user of like, although I'm a Mac user, I use all the Office suite. I mean, I think everybody does, don't they? I mean, even on Mac, you can't get away. I think the usability of Office is just great. I use iMovie all the time. But this is what happens, isn't it? You start to think about all the software that we use day to day, and you suddenly go, oh my God, there's like loads of it, isn't there?
Half of what I spend is all on software or some sort of something to do with the website or something. You mentioned the name of But Like a Boss and how you like that. I'm curious to know how you named your business, like Buzztastic. Like, it's such a unique name, but it's such a great name as well. I've never asked you how you came up with it.
You know what? Okay, so when I was setting up my business, I had all these grand ideas for names, and then like I did that thing that everyone does, which is you go online and you go, can't get the website. Oh, I can't get the website. And my friend at the time, I've just said I'm not very creative. My friend was head of marketing at the business I was in last, and she was on maternity leave. And I was talking to her and I said, oh, I can't come up with a name. Like all the good names are taken. And just out of interest, I couldn't even tell you what those good names were, but at the time they seemed like these were amazing names, but they weren't available. And she said, oh, I'm sure you'll come up with something. And it's 3 a.m. in the morning. My phone started to beep. And she'd been up. She's not breastfeeding her child. And she'd be like, I'm so bored. But I came up with all these great names. And Buzztastic was one of them. And I was like immediately really excited about it because actually, I don't know, you probably won't know, but I used to keep bees. So
Okay.
it felt like buzz, bees. I thought, oh yeah, I could really get on board with that. And I was able to get all the names and everything. The only thing I haven't got is the .com address, which is really annoying because somebody's got that and they keep saying, well, you could buy it for only £7,000. And I'm like, no, but every year it's going up. So every year they go,
no.
you could buy it for 8,000. I'm like, oh man. So it's really frustrating. But yeah, so, and I love my company now. I absolutely love it. And actually, Buzztastic is obviously the company name. And quite often the tag that I use is Be Salestastic.
Right.
So, and I love that because it's like you can make sales fantastic just by being salestastic.
Salestastic. So you've got all these little play on words on it. I really like the name actually. It's very unique, and I think it fits well with your personality, to be honest. When you think about buzz, you think of something very exciting and colourful.
It's really funny as well. Like I've got a couple of clients who, I mean, I've been on retainer with one of them for like, oh God, probably nearly 6 years. And I go in a couple of times a month normally. And literally they'll be like, oh, look, Buzz is in the building. You call me Buzz, I'd be like, oh Buzz, come get a meeting with you about this, that, and the other, or whatever. So yeah, it's really funny, but I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it's hilarious.
Looks like your next Halloween costume will be a buzzy bee or something. Fantastic
Yes.
colours. So before you go, how can people connect with you?
Oh, right, okay. So come find me on LinkedIn. Just don't spam me on the messages because I love LinkedIn. I am a bit of a fan. But the
You
other
will
thing is,
get
I
blocked.
mean, yeah, you will get blocked. You'll connect with me, I'll accept, and then you'll message me and I'll just get rid of you. So come and find me on LinkedIn. Of course, you can find me on my website, which is buzztastic.co.uk. But the thing I'm really excited about at the moment is, I don't know if you know about this,
Go on.
I've started a YouTube channel.
Ooh.
I know, I'm like so super excited about it. I have 43 subscribers, and none of those are my mum, so I'm dead proud of that fact because I haven't asked her yet. Okay, so they're all actually genuine people. So I set up a YouTube channel about be about 2 months ago now, just before like the COVID situation kicked off. And I'm putting out weekly content there. So I would love anyone who wants to come and partake of all my videos. There's no charge in any of it. It's loads of great advice, and you can get that there. The channel is called Be Salestastic. So if you have a search for Be Salestastic, you'll actually find the channel and all the videos there. And I would love it if you hit the subscribe button. So there you go. There's my big plug.
You've not plugged it, so I'm going to plug it for you. But you've also got a Facebook group, haven't you? Which I'm in, and I've had loads of value out of it actually. So I'm going to plug
I
that
do,
one as
yeah.
well.
And actually the Facebook page, I've got some live stuff going out on there coming up as well. So,
Right.
head across on the page. Just come and find me on social, basically. I'd
Just
love to
type in
see you all.
Salestastic and they'll find you.
Yeah. We'll put in the little link at the bottom there, and it'll be in the comments or something, I'm sure.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for coming on. It's been really appreciated because I think sales is one of those topics that, like you said, people are quite uneasy about. So I'm sure they'll get a lot out of it. So thank you very much for coming on. It's been great having you.
Oh, it's been great. It's been really nice catching up as well, Peter. So, as one of my business buddies, it's been lovely to come on and be part of the podcast as well. It's super, super exciting to be part of it. And it's lovely to catch up with you as well.
Thank you. Remember, listeners, to check out the Enterprise Profs community and LinkedIn group. Go and A-star your business today.